She didn't say
Hi guys. If you told me a year ago that I'd be here just as a grandma in front of all you guys at a Christian project, I would totally not believe you, but here I am. So I'm going to share a little bit about how God has completely transformed my life. So I grew up attending a very traditional Methodist church with my family. We went every Sunday, but outside of attending church, we weren't really a Christian family, even though we kind of said we were. I never saw my parents pray. I didn't even know if they had a Bible or they read it. And so talking about even God outside of church was very awkward for us. And so I didn't have a really good foundation of like going to church and understanding who Christ was and what the gospel was. And so growing up, I still had a very blessed and fortunate life, but I still dealt with a lot of trials that I went through. One of the big ones being my relationship with my sister. It was a very emotionally and physically painful relationship with my sister of just growing up and her just filling me with a lot of painful lies of my worth and my purpose. And so growing up, I just felt like very empty and that I didn't have a purpose to live. And so along with that and not really having a strong faith, middle school was definitely really hard of just like going through it and really knowing why I was alive and knowing my purpose for being there. I also dealt with a heart condition throughout my life, which led me to have a heart surgery in 8th grade. And I remember right before going under anesthesia, just thinking that like I didn't want to wake up. Like this isn't the life I want to live. And so I went into high school with the same feelings of like not really having any faith, and it just kind of got worse. I didn't really believe in God. I was more or less angry towards him, even if I did believe in him, and it turned into a point where like I absolutely hated going to church. I would fake being sick so I wouldn't have to go, and the church turned into a really cold place for me. Even today, it's hard to like sometimes walk into church because all those old feelings start flooding back. But so that was pretty much my life for about 6 years of just like cynical and cold heart. Even though I was like the super cheery, positive person on the outside, my inside didn't reflect that. And so going into my freshman year of college, I really struggled. I didn't have a community. I put my trust in my life completely on myself, and I had control of everything. And so it just led to a lot of brokenness as I sought other outlets for a purpose in life, whether it be in relationships, drugs, and alcohol. And so it just, obviously that leads to a lot of sin and just brokenness from my own doing. I got into a year-long relationship that ended up being a very broken and painful relationship as well. But he was a Christian, and so it was about springtime of last year that I started going to church again. And so that was a really big step in my life of like something changing inside of me, of like God softening my heart, like feeling him like actually pursuing me. And obviously it took a lot for me to walk into that church, but that was just the first step of his journey for my life. And so I had this like inkling of like whatever this is of like going back to church, whoever God is, like I want to know more. Like even though a lot of me is like really cold towards it, like I want to know more. And so that summer, God did a lot of work in my life of tearing down a lot of idols I had in my life. One of them being that relationship. It was an ungodly, unfaithful relationship, and so it was really hard for me to put my entire identity in that and then for it to just fall down. I also had an idol of money, of like needing to be successful and go to work. My internship ended up not paying me, and so all that money was not given to me, so that was really hard. As well, I had an idol of just being successful and having just this perfect life of like me controlling everything, and I ended up quitting that job. And so for me, that ended up being a huge failure in my life. And then the last one was just idling my major, which was interior design at the time. And so I had a change of heart after that job, and I was like, I don't want to do interior design. This isn't the life I want to live. And so I switched majors, but that summer I had just a lot of brokenness of God just like tearing me down to my core and just meeting me there in my complete brokenness and pain. And that was when I truly started seeing him and seeing my need for him. And so this past fall, I started going to church and going to a Bible study back at Purdue. And so I did that, and I was like, okay, cool, I'm a Christian. I'm doing everything I need to do. And my life really didn't reflect that. I still lived a life of a lot of sin and brokenness and anxiety and control of my own life. And so it just was still really painful. I got back from winter break, and it was a really rough winter break, and so I had a friend, Tyler Stout, actually, who invited me to all the halftimes at Purdue, and I always had an excuse or some reason not to go, but he saw my brokenness, and so he got me in touch with one of the campus outreach staff, Emily Reddig, and it was through her that she sat with me and just had a genuine conversation. She asked me questions that no one else had ever asked before. And she just genuinely cared about my heart and my life. She asked me if I was a Christian, and I said yes, because I thought I was. And she asked me if I had given my life to Christ, and I was like, no, I don't know what that means. And so she shared with me the bridge diagram, and that was truly the first time that I understood the gospel, and it clicked inside my heart. And it I had a lot of questions and doubts inside my head, because I thought I was a Christian, and I realized I wasn't. And so I did struggle for a couple weeks of just a lot of questions. And then I went to spring conference, and there was where I truly learned about my brokenness and my sin and my need for a Savior, and that Savior being in Jesus Christ, who died on the cross for me to wash away my sins and to have a relationship with God. And so after that amazing weekend with a lot of growth and growing pains, I came back to Purdue and prayed to God and just repented for my sins and gave my life to Christ. And so since then, my life still has been rough, but also been really sweet, because I can see all the amazing blessings and joy God has given me, and it's been so sweet. And through all the trials, I know He's there, and I can trust Him with my faith. And so it's been really sweet to see the growth and complete change He's had in my life, even just a year ago, of just being a completely different person. I would not believe you if you told me I'd be up here, but it's been really sweet, especially coming down to OP and just being encouraged by literally every single one of you. You're all so beautiful, and I'm so thankful, and thank you for letting me share my testimony with you guys. I'm gonna bring up Kayla to pray for our speaker too.